Without further ado, welcome back to another episode of Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks, our long-awaited mock draft. Past years, we have had a 4 panel of professional NFL analysts. Professional is used very loosely. This year, we got a lovely cast of 3 here. Myself, Dakota. We got Tim, the usual suspects, and then Nick, our most tenured guest, of course. Been on the most amount of episodes as a guest. Thank you for joining once again.
My bill will be in the mail.
Okay, you will not get it back. So you should be paying me. All right. So yeah, what we'll do is we're gonna go sequential order. I think I have first pick, then it's Nick, then you. That was like the random order it gave me, and
Yeah.
then so like
Random. You somehow get the first overall pick.
I'll pick, and then then Nick will tell me who he wants. So we'll just like I'll be the guy clicking, but like so then I can just kind of scroll through here.
Yeah, just Dakota, if you do some dumb shit and don't take Cam Ward first overall and everybody knows it's coming up, I might just exit it out.
Here we go.
I
This is the
didn't
jaw dropper.
I didn't like until like last week. I really thought it was still a wild card, and then everything I've looked at, people were like, yeah, no, Titans are they knew they were
No.
taking Cam Ward when free agency started because that's why they were signing offensive linemen.
They also
Yeah.
canceled their visit with Shador and everybody else, so they clearly aren't going to trade back. Like it was very
If
clear.
yeah, yeah, we'll
I have
get
some spicy I
we'll
have
get to
I have
that,
some
but
spicy hot takes, by the way, which I can't wait to get
okay,
into.
all right. And trades
Okay.
are allowed, so this thing has a trade. I think a trade evaluator, so you can kind of figure out what it takes to get to that spot. So if you see a player dropping you want, because there's a couple players like Tyler Warren, for example, like he could go look like from he could go 5 or he could go 15. Like it's
Man, I love Warren. I
yeah,
like the
it's
what's his face? Lovelock or Loveland.
Lovestone.
Loveland, yeah,
Yeah.
Colston Loveland.
mouthful.
He's like
Yeah.
blowing up, and I kind of love it because I like Warren a lot better. Warren's a
Yeah,
beast. I'd love to see him fall all the way to the Eagles.
good luck.
Yeah, they'd have to move up pretty hefty. I
I
think
wouldn't rule it out.
yeah, I mean, if they're gonna move up, I can only see them moving up to like mid 20s. I can't see them going further than that.
Does does Dallas Goddard get moved day one?
No, I think
Oh,
Dallas
I'd be
gets
surprised.
moved. I think Dallas gets moved to the team that misses out on a tight end because there's a lot of day
Hmm.
2 tight ends. So why would you trade for a tight end when somebody might drop to you that you like on
Yeah.
day 2?
This is a great draft for the Eagles because they got good offensive line and great edge rushers, deep in edge rushers. So
Deep in D line hold, like D
yeah,
tackles, D ends, and a number of good tight ends, but you don't say in a lot of drafts.
yeah, it's like
That's true.
perfect for what we lost and what we need to replace. So I have the first pick, then Nick has the second pick, Tim's got the third pick, and then it'll go back, and then I'll start, and then Nick again, and then Tim. So we'll kind of go through and pretend we're each team and what we think they should do as far as team needs, or if they're a team that drafts really dumb, like who would they take if some of these quarterbacks. We always know that quarterbacks are projected to go like second, like Bo Nix, I think was supposed to go second round last year, and he went like 10 overall. Like leading up to the
Yeah.
draft, everyone was like, "Oh, actually, he's gonna go like early." And so, quarterbacks, I don't know. Quarterback class is kind of weird this year. Same with wide receiver class, but there's always a run. So we will kind of see how that fares out. But any quick thoughts before we get going on this?
No, I mean, I think the quarterback one is going to be the most curious to
Yeah,
me. I mean, every year they always jump up the board.
because I would have
I
thought
know.
like, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying I know Sanders and Dart's name out there.
Hmm.
I'm really curious to see how far they rise. They always will, and I'm interested to see if a fourth quarterback finds its way into the first round. I mean, we had what like 5 or 6 last year, and I mean McCarthy or Bo Nix I think went much higher than at least I thought anyone was going to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna because I don't have any team that's gonna actually I'm not gonna share that now. I'll get to it after my pick. It's gonna be a little too much foreshadowing. But I've
Okay.
got a spicy tidbit first pick coming in.
Okay. Okay.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Well, we're not sponsored, but Mango Card, if you want to sponsor us, one of my favorites. Oh, go get in the camera. Get in the camera. All right. I'm breaking my rule. I haven't been drinking alcohol Monday to Thursday, so cheers to the draft and go Birds. All
What
right.
is, what is it, 6 o'clock on a Monday? You really
Hell
held
yeah,
out right
brother.
along
Hell
there.
yeah.
I
All
guess you
right.
went to work sober, so proud of you there.
Did I? All right. Pick number one. We're gonna go. Obviously, Cam Ward is the guy that everyone is kind of talking about. So we're gonna take him if the. Oh, hold on. Start the draft. That's probably pretty important. Titans taking Cam Ward at number one. They got the quarterback. Who knows? Maybe I wonder if it's gonna be like a Josh Rosen scenario where Will
Do
Levis
not
kind
to
of
say
gets
Cam.
flipped.
Don't say Cam Ward and Josh Rosen in the same sentence.
Yeah, I'll
Oh
say
my
it. You did
goodness.
just draft the
No,
man
no,
first
like I'm
overall, and you're
saying
comparing him to Josh
Like remember
Rosen.
when he was with wasn't it with the Cardinals and then they flipped them out?
Oh yeah, year two.
Yeah, because they drafted Kyler, right? And they got rid
Mhm.
of Josh for
So are
peanuts.
you
But
already penciling your first overall draft pick as a failure?
no, you're taking that the wrong way.
No, he's calling Will.
Anyways,
He's calling Will Levis Josh Rosen.
yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Which I
Um,
could have told you with the mayo and the coffee comment.
Mm.
yeah. All right. So Nick, you're on the clock. Browns, are they going to go do Carter or Travis Hunter? It seems like or maybe you should Shedeur Sanders. I don't know.
So I've spent a lot of time kind of thinking through this.
Mm,
There's obviously the really exciting, if you're a Browns fan, idea of pairing Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett and just saying, we're not going to score on offense, but good luck for your quarterback making it out of this game.
yeah.
And like that, it's one strategy that I could see them going with. I think though, I'm gonna take a little bit of the Howie Roseman idea of you don't only need to look at how much money you're spending on a player, being Myles Garrett at 40 million, you got to look at how much you're paying that room. And I don't think you can pay 40 million to one guy and then use a top two premium pick for a guy who plays in the same position group. You got to pay a guy 40 million, he's got to produce like a $40 million player. Um, I think Travis Hunter is the pick here for Cleveland,
Okay.
and they are so bad. I could see him actually legitimately trying to play offense and defense. I
Mm.
can very much see them trying to find a way. Like Champ Bailey, my favorite Bronco from yesteryear, who was a two-way player in college at Georgia, to think he might have that ability. It sounds crazy. It sounds like it's one of those things you can't do, but I could see him being like a receiver first and maybe like a nickel or a dime back on defense, not every single snap, but playing subgroup defense or the opposite. He plays corner every day and he's a red zone offensive player or certain packages. I will say though, one of my little sneaky hot takes, I think that this is a very similar to Houston draft where Cleveland trades back into the first round to get Shador Sanders and
Oh,
pairs him with Travis Hunter. Because
Oh,
I
you
think
have them going all the way, Buck.
I know I think Shador is going to drop. I think he's going to get past this group. I think at 9 there's going to be a little bit of sweat with the Saints. However, Jackson Dart is a player comped like Jalen Hurts. And
hmm.
Kellen Moore has always had a quarterback who can move a little bit to throw over the ball. I could see him taking Jackson Dart, Shador sliding down a little bit, and then Cleveland popping in that mid-teen range and pulling. Not the same 2-3 pick they did with the Stroud Will Anderson year, but pairing those two up and continuing it from Colorado to Cleveland together. So that's one of my little foreshadowing draft night nuggets I see coming.
Okay. We'll see if you can. I don't know who's got the. They only have one pick in the first round.
The only one in the first. This is actually the first year in a long time
I
every
was gonna
team has its
say.
first round pick.
Oh,
Oh,
there's a fun little fact.
nobody has
Mhm.
a set. That's pretty odd. That hasn't
Mhm.
happened in a while.
Nope.
All right. So try. See, I remember last time you did this where you would give me a nice little spiel and I would like preemptively select a player. So I waited till you were done to make sure you weren't gonna be like,
Thank you.
anyways, I'm gonna take this guy. So we got Travis Hunter going to Cleveland, which leaves Tim on a clock with the New York Football Giants. So what are they feeling? Is it gonna be Sanders? Is it gonna be Carter? Are they gonna I mean, what's his name? Thibodeau is contract year, so they might let him. They haven't
Maybe,
gotten
I
a
mean,
deal done with
the
him
one
yet.
thing I know that the Giants just need to look at this pick is what is going to win us games. I know this is what everyone thinks, but this has got to be the most aggressive top five drafting team to win. I mean, otherwise everyone's fired. This is the last stretch. I'm actually pretty happy that Hunter went to Cleveland because I think which player goes to the Giants right now that wins them more games? Carter is the pick. Carter, Brian Burns, Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence. You got something there.
That's pretty
That
good.
that is a
That's
elite
good. It's a good D
position
line.
group right there. I mean, do the Giants have a million and one other holes? Of course, but they can get the quarterback, and that's something you can win on. Hunter, if he was there, I'd take him, put him at wide receiver. I think they need all the weapons they need, but I'm very happy Carter fell. That defensive line, I mean, is going to be legit. Plus, the Giants have seen Micah Parsons dominate them every single year he's been in the NFL. I think they're well aware of what Carter can be and what they have planned for him. So I'm going with Abdul Carter in the top 3 pick to save Daboll and Sean's job.
Okay. So we got pretty straightforward. I think that's pretty set in stone three, unless the Giants they could trade out of that spot. They do have a lot of holes, so
Yeah.
we'll see. Although
They could trade back for a haul and either if somebody wants to move up and get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, who's ever there. I mean, those two arguably could be number one pick almost any year of a draft. So I could see a
Yeah.
team jumping up. The Giants have a ton of holes,
yeah,
and they know and they play in a division with Washington and the Eagles, who they're looking way up at. So
Yeah.
it would and I think they're probably in a position where they're going to be getting ready to kind of take a quarterback next year or make a power move. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were filling other holes and maybe even getting future assets and making a trade
The
back.
Giants at the same time, just because of the Giants, I could see this being an extremely short-sighted draft. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see them jump back up in the first round for someone. I wouldn't be surprised to them stay at 3 to get someone sexy like Carter Hunter. I just this whole situation where you have a coach and a GM basically just walking the walking dead at this point. We all know they're getting fired if they start out rough. I mean, if they start
I'm
like 1 and 3, I think Daboll's done before the bye week.
I'm surprised the
So
GM
I
still
think,
has a job, but
yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know why you would give them another year, knowing that. I mean, what would keep their job? The playoffs, maybe, which
yeah,
is pretty unrealistic. But I mean, we'll see. They got a very important draft, and you got a GM and a coach that are thinking short term instead of long term. Be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think Carter's a win-win for short
yeah.
term and
I
long term for them.
I think of the top three because I think the Patriots could also trade back and
Yeah.
pile up some picks. But yeah, if you're Cleveland, I think you luck out because you either get a stud um, on offense to pair with Jerry Judy, or you get a stud on defense to pair with Miles Garrett. I mean, who's complaining?
True.
Um, so I got the Patriots. I'm gonna be the take the not so sexy pick, but one that they need because they have their franchise quarterback. They can worry about getting him some more weapons later in the draft or, future drafts as they're kind of rebuilding a little bit there. But start with the trenches. Got to take Will Campbell here. Probably the best OT prospect in this draft, which the Jaguars probably really wanted, but Patriots snag him. If they stay put, I think they add beef up their line a little bit there. So, Nick, you're now on the clock.
This is going to be like the most chalk number five pick. Mason Graham is pretty much the number five pick in almost any mock draft you look up. And after seeing the amount of money defensive tackles have got in free agency and contract extensions over the past 2 years, if he is the player they think he's going to be, to pair him up with Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker and other assets you've already invested in young guys, and you just kind of take this D line down in Duval and basically just try to go after the quarterback, disrupt, just be extremely disruptive. Um, seeing and I just want to take this moment to acknowledge that Tim told me that Milton Williams was going to get 3 years, $39 million, and I told him he's going to get that big bag, and sure enough, he got a
Hey,
big 26 million a year bag.
Yeah.
listen, that's why I'm not an agent. This is also why I shop. I go late to the food store when everything's reduced and discounted.
Uh,
Let me get that almost expired bread and berries for half price. I'm there.
Yeah, what's amazing though is I love how the Milton Williams and Lee McNeil draft went so viral, and both of those guys were right. Like both of those players ended up being $90+ million second contract players in the
Mhm.
third round. Like that is crazy that they were both like if that doesn't tell you how strong the Eagles scouting department is the
Oh
GM and a
yeah.
scout are getting into legit fights during the round 3 of the draft. And it turns out both of them would have made killer draft picks on
Uh-huh.
both guys.
Yeah, I remember when we took him, Milton Williams, we were all like, after I think the rookie year, we were like, yo, watch out for this guy. Like he's up and coming. And then lo and behold, he doesn't even get an extension or nothing. He just gets the bag with the Patriots. So, but
Yeah.
good for him. Like I said earlier, this is a great draft for the Eagles to replenish. I think that's why they were pretty okay with letting a lot of people go on the defensive side. But um, yeah, I agree. I think either the offensive tackle or Mason Graham here from Michigan are definitely the Jaguars picks there because they have a lot of holes. But I mean, if Trevor Lawrence can get it together and if their head coach is the offensive guru everyone thinks he is, we'll see. I have heard the Penn State tight end kind of linked to them, but they did draft a tight end in the second round last year that Trevor Lawrence has a good rapport with. So I don't think they'll go tight end early, but see how the draft shakes out for them, I guess. But
Fair enough.
Tim on the clock with the Raiders.
I'm not gonna lie. I think this is the actual start of the draft. Like I really, I don't really see the top five outside the players we just drafted moving
Hmm.
much. Maybe
Mhm.
Carter over Hunter, maybe Graham over Campbell.
Mhm.
But I feel like those top five are the five guys.
Fair.
This one is the tricky one.
It is. Yeah.
I'm really close on Sanders.
Mm.
Some like
Mm.
Tom
Do it.
Brady's influence is going to come
Do it.
in. He knows, he sees it. He talks about it all the time. He's like, quarterbacks get thrown into situations, they don't learn, they get crushed, and they go nowhere. The guy knows that. It's tempting, but you brought in Pete Carroll. I'm sure Carroll, there was agreement Carroll was going to have a lot of sway in decisions. He got his guy Geno Smith. He likes Geno Smith.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's gonna if that's really where they want to go. I
He's
think
old
the whole
now.
group that they have,
Well, Pete,
yeah,
Pete,
but
Pete
listen, they
Carroll,
just gave
Pete
him a
Carroll,
3-year
and
deal.
Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly are run first guys.
It's true. And Genty is on the board. And listen, I'm the biggest believer of I
Ooh.
think running backs are like integral parts of good teams. I'm all for top 10 picks and high free agent running backs on good teams. This Raiders team stinks. But I'm gonna go with McMillan here.
Oh.
Ooh, Ted McMillan, huh?
Wow.
I just
That
think
that is a
with
very Raiders pick.
It is a
we just
Raiders pick.
get rid of all the sexiness. Get rid of
Mhm.
the Sanders and the quarterback. Get rid of the
Mhm.
unstoppable running back. Just remove the sexiness. And I think this is the pick. This just makes more sense. The offense stinks. Everyone stinks on that team. It gives them a chance, I think, to win now. I don't, this draft is so deep with running backs. The Raiders have
Mhm.
9 picks. I'm sure they can get a very good running back in the second round. They still
Yeah.
stink all over the place. They need like impact players. I think they're confident in Geno. I don't think you bring in Gino and Pete Carroll as your new coach, without reasoning. The what's his face, Spittick, the GM, is coming from Tampa.
Mhm.
They've had Baker there for a while and have success. They had Tom Brady. I think they're also, he's also in the inclination of like we can get a veteran quarterback if the roster's right and win some games.
I think it's interesting too because they do come up at that beginning of the second round, which is a really good spot to draft a running back.
Oh
So
yeah.
you could get somebody there. And that T Mac pick kind of reminds me of which is funny because Drake London is like his player comp. And a couple of years ago, I did not expect Drake London to go as high as he did, and I went
Mhm.
ahead of some other guys, and I was like, whoa. But having that big body receiver for Gino, you can question a lot, but he's a very accurate guy. And to give him a 6'4" receiver with that wingspan, there's a lot of optionality there.
Oh, they need something. They're like they got no running back. Their offensive line's not great. They have no weapons outside of Brock Bowers, really.
Mhm.
Um, this is something. This is something they can build off of. I think it's an impact pick. I think they can build around, win some games this year, but they still have a ton of holes. But I think this helps more considering where you can get a running back in the second round.
All right. Yeah, I do think Ashton Genty is definitely like a curious player as far as where he's gonna fall. I could see the Raiders doing that, but I think you're right. I think the receiver might be the one for them. I don't know.
I'm
He's
saying
not a big 40 guy, is he? Because they usually draft players that run like 4.2 40s.
I was closer to Sanders than I was Genty, though.
Okay.
Like this
Interesting.
draft's so deep on running backs. They're going to get another one. They have so many picks. I really think Sanders is going to get a hard look. I think Brady puts his insight and like let the guy sit. Maybe they think long term, but with Carroll, it doesn't really sound like a long term kind of move. So I wouldn't be surprised though if he ends up there.
Yeah, that's how I think the running backs are gonna be interesting because I really think it's only Genty and the UNC guy, but he's the one that could literally go top 10 or late 20s. So we'll see. But so I got the Jets here at number 7. They got a lot of holes. They still don't have. Oh no, they do have a quarterback, I guess, and um, what's this, Justin Fields, 2-year deal. So they'll probably. I mean, him and Brees Hall, they're going to run the ball a lot. So I thought about offensive line help here, but I think they need some more playmakers. Alan Lazard is your number one receiver, I think, right now.
Mm.
That's not going to cut it.
It's not good when you take a $9 million pay cut.
Yeah. So we're gonna take Tyler Warren here, Penn State tight end, 6'6"
Ooh.
beast. I like the Ringer had him. Their description of him is a Swiss Army knife who's dominant when he catches the ball at the point of attack and then turns into a runaway beer truck. Pretty accurate.
Hmm.
I think it was the playoff game that Penn State was in, where he was like their only source of offense. Um, and he was just getting the ball and grinding out, every single yard. So I think he'll be good for them, especially with Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields. Rolling out of the pocket, finding that quick short route to a tight end who can get open, get some yards after the catch. So I think it's a good fit for them, to be honest. So I think 5 to 15. I think 15 is pretty deep for him to last, but he should be going in that range, I think. But Nick, you're on the clock with the Carolina Panthers. What do they do?
Couple different things here. I mean, I think T-Mac would have been a good fit here. I think
Hmm.
Bryce Young, I got to give him a ton of credit after that benching. He came back like a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, it was
Um,
wild.
and I still don't think it was worth what they gave up to get him, but I do think it at least makes them feel like I want to see a little bit more of what this guy can be. T-Mac would have been a good pick there. Jalen Walker, somebody I like to them.
Hmm.
Just because I think their defense gets kind of. I mean, you just paid J.C. Horn huge money. Derek Brown missed most of last year with an injury, but he's a stud.
Yeah.
They just signed. They just signed Tershawn Wharton. Um, so I think like Jalen Walker could be a really cool piece there. But I think I'm gonna lean into because you left him on the board there, and I think he's a really big Jets pick right before him, Armand Membu.
Hmm.
Um, Absolute athletic freak. Projects to be his best position, I think, is right tackle in the NFL, but he's position versatile. They can line him up at guard. They can just say, where's the best place to put this guy? They took Ike Ekwonu, top 6 and 22. And I think just build it. If the one thing we've learned with the Eagles, like you build out that strong offense and defensive line, like you can put average pieces in other places and make it work. So I think if Mambu falls to them at 8 here, Bryce Young is screaming at the GM to go get him some more O-line help. So I'm going to take Mambu there.
I like that pick. They definitely the best way to have a quarterback get some success is to give him a good line. So you can do a lot. Look at what McNabb did with some questionable receivers for most of his career.
Mhm.
But all right, Tim, you are on the clock with probably the popcorn pick here. Everyone's going to be paying attention to what the Saints do at number 9 because Shador Sanders is still on the clock and he might
Yeah,
still be wearing black and gold. Who knows?
I'm not gonna lie. This is like I'm gonna use this pick because it's so obvious because this is exactly what the Saints do. But I can't express enough in every fiber of my body how bad I think this pick is going to be. I do think the Saints are going to draft Shador Sanders because the Saints
Okay.
constantly think that they're going to win the Super Bowl. They act like it, they spend like it, they make moves like they're going to. Their roster is so bad. They have no offensive linemen. They need wide receivers. Their tight ends could use an improvement. They now Derek Carr's hurt. I mean, I could have bought into this if Derek Carr wasn't hurt, but you're going to throw Sanders into the fire immediately because the Saints always think they're going to win. That's why they're $1 million, $50 million
Cap
over the
hell.
cap year every
Yeah.
year. Like, and then your argument of, oh, get the quarterback on a young, rookie contract would be great. By the time they finally get under the cap with all these insane deals they've signed, Shador Sanders will be due an extension. Like, they have no money to take advantage of Shador Sanders, a rookie deal contract. They still have to pay Derek Carr franchise quarterback money this year. It's just, I don't like anything about this pick. They're such a bad team. They have so many bad holes, but it's Kellen Moore. He needs a quarterback. We know the draft. Shorty Sanders is not falling out of the top 10. Just don't say it. Someone will come up and get him. Just the NFL draft just doesn't work like that. But the Saints are going to do it. It's going to be such a bad pick. They're never going to get him any help because they have no money. You look at the roster, they're very old for a team that never wins any games. This is just going to be a disaster, but they're going to do it anyway. So I'll take Sanders.
All right. So he's going to be running for his life.
It's going to be so bad. Like,
Very
it's just
Caleb
this
Williams
team.
of last year. Good
They will
segue there.
somehow they're going to be $50 million over the cap every year of Shador Sanders' rookie contract. When every other team has more money than any, to spend when they have guys on rookie contracts, the Saints just will be over the cap.
All right. I like the analysis. Very big Saints guy over here.
Yeah, team that's going nowhere. But
Yeah,
hey,
they're
I'm wishing Kellen Moore the best.
Alvin Kamara and the Saints, but all right. So I have the Bears here at number 10. They have a lot of places they can go. I think they have the makings of a fringe playoff team. Um, and now they have a new coach, Ben Johnson. And I think something he had in Detroit was a crazy good running game with two really good running backs. So I think if you can get one really good running back, that definitely will help ease some of the pain on Caleb. So he's sitting here at 10. Dallas maybe might. I don't think that Dallas would move up to get him, but I think 10's is a good spot for Genty for being a running back. So Bears get a nice compliment to their offense and take the Boise State running back.
I like that pick. I mean, I think they could use a little more linemen, but there's
I
no
mean,
one
they
else
they
there that I
signed some
really
linemen in the
take.
offseason. Now, they're not the greatest, but it's
No,
it's
listen, I'll give it to
building
you.
blocks. So,
I'm a fan of the pick. No
but
gripe.
Nick, you have the 49ers here at 11 who lost more than the Eagles did on defense. So, curious where you're
Yes,
going to
they
go with
did.
this pick.
Yeah, it's really interesting because for a team that used to be such a good roster,
Hmm.
it feels like over the last couple of years it has just chipped and chipped and chipped and
Always
chipped
injured.
away. Saw a ton of injuries. That Javon Hargrave contract was an absolute joke. They paid him $42 million to play like 13 games. He
Yep.
played pretty well that first year, and then that
Yeah.
tricep tear last year just and really that contract was kind of set up in that way where they could get out after 2 years, and sure enough, they did. Um, if there was a defensive tackle this high that was worth this pick, that's definitely the way they would go, considering their two starting defensive tackles had 6 and 12 tackles last year. So you're talking like a lot of misproduction. I'm a little surprised in free agency they didn't do something a little more aggressive in this spot. They
Yeah.
lost Hargrave, they lost Malik Collins.
Hmm.
They're not getting this Brock Purdy deal done yet, which is shocking and
They
also
lost
very
Ward too, right?
they
Tre'Davious
lost
Ward.
your areas. Well,
Yeah.
you're leading. That's where I'm going to
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Jump in the gun,
because
man.
because
Are you on the clock?
wouldn't you know that Charvarius Ward has a player comp? Do you know
Hmm.
who his player comp is? It
No,
is
but you're going to tell
one
me.
Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. He's tall, he's
Hmm.
long, he's 6'2".
Hmm.
Um, he's versatile. He can play man, he can play zone. Their two starting corners right now are not good.
Nope.
Diamador Lenore is a good nickel corner, but the two outside corners are really, really suspect. Um, you've got, one stud in Bosa in your front line. You got one stud in the middle line at, Fred Warner. And then Mustafa has looked like a really nice young pup out at safety.
Yeah.
But they need a legit cornerback. So I think, Charvarius Ward leaves, in comes the younger version of Charvarius Ward, and they take Will Johnson.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think, obviously if you consider Travis Hunter a corner, Will Johnson's probably be the second best corner in the draft, but if you consider Travis Hunter a receiver, I would say Will Johnson's the best corner. So, on a good Michigan defense that they won the chip this year, didn't they? Or
2 years
no?
ago,
2 years
Ohio
ago.
State won this year.
Oh, that's right. But
Chip
yeah,
won the chip.
chip on the chip. Cool. Like it. So we will pencil in Will Johnson here to the Niners. Tim, you get the honors of the toilet pick. Dallas Cowboys, number 12.
It's interesting because the two people who went was T Mac and Ashton Genty, who are the two players I think the Cowboys want the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is not going well. I even liked Will Johnson there. I thought
I
with
don't like that
the
Jalen Walker
injury
still.
history of Diggs and Bland, Will Johnson would have been a nice pick. Genty, I
Mhm.
mean, was the dream. I can't see
Yeah.
Genty missing or Jerry missing on Genty, especially all the
hmm
heat he got last year for not signing a running back.
hmm
Yeah, this one
Does he
has
go
not
Hampton?
worked out very well. No, God, no. I mean, I think he's a good player, but to
I
take
think
the
he's good, but
second running back at 12,
12's high.
I still think, yeah, but I think it's a reach on any of these other guys. I kind of like Jalen Walker here. I think he's a good value, but I don't see them going defense. I think Jerry's gonna try to plug his hole. Jerry loves filling in holes, and I think he's gonna
Awesome.
keep it in the state and go with Golden,
Oh, he's
Texas
so
wide receiver.
fast. He's so
And he,
fast.
Jerry likes speed. Jerry likes Texas, and
hmm
Jerry likes to go for reaches.
Speed in
Yeah.
Texas.
I can no, I actually I could see that.
Yeah.
That is something that wouldn't shock me. Um, and in fairness to CeeDee Lamb, like he is the offense right now. So like you
Yes.
need
Yeah.
some other than that, something.
The only other person that caught my eye was Loveland, but with
I mean, they're
who's already there? They have a tight end already.
Well,
Fred
they drafted two tight ends in the last 3 years because they've got Jake Ferguson and they
Ferguson,
took
yeah.
and
Ferguson.
Schoonmaker they took in the second.
Ferguson's a fringe
Yeah,
top 10. I don't think I don't think
I
he's
don't
Yeah,
think
that's a
he's
lot.
that great either.
To draft three tight ends though in 3 years. That's a
yeah.
lot.
No, I do agree. But I mean, again, you are right. CD is the offense. At this point, you just need talented people in any position possible. But I mean, I think I liked Golden with the Texas. I thought he looked pretty good. Um,
He's a good player.
yeah, I think overall it might be a reach considering some other players there. Like I like some of the other defensive guys, but I think it has to be offense in some capacity. They have to be a skill player.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be good. The thing with receivers is they're like they just there's nowhere to slot them because teams kind of take them as I think last year's draft was really weird for receivers because like the last 10 picks I feel like were receivers going that should have been in the second round, but who knows? Um, so I have the Dolphins here at 13, and my initial thought is let's keep Tua alive and
That's a good start.
beef up the line. I think who was it? Armstead just retired. Um, they could use some help on defense. I don't think they have a single safety on their roster. Um, but yeah, I just think Banks is a great another Texas guy, but I think you have to protect Tua and even factor in the concussion factor a little bit extra than a normal quarterback. So I'm taking Banks here at number 13. Tim, or excuse me, Nick, you're on the clock with the Colts.
So speaking of Travis Ward, his new team, the Indianapolis Colts.
Hmm.
I I think that the Indianapolis Colts are going to walk into this night saying that either Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland are going to be in Indy. I think they're happy with either. They prefer probably Tyler Warren, but Colston Loveland is number 10 on ESPN's big board. He's 6'6", 246. Guys could, I've heard him referred to as the best separating tight end in this draft. Um, you know, what Indy had with Dallas Clark back with Peyton Manning and seeing the value of the tight end. And this is kind of like the make or break year for Anthony Richardson, I think. I think
Yeah,
they got to give it this one last go to see if this is going to work. Because if not, you got to make a move. And I think, with Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and Jonathan Taylor and AD Mitchell, um,
a decent
if you
core.
can't make it's not bad. You got Quentin
Yeah,
Nelson at left guard. Like it's not a bad offensive core. And I think that if by this year, he doesn't show you enough. And I think you want to know. I think if you put Colson Loveland in here, you feel confident saying if he doesn't make it work, we're just going to go get a veteran next year in the
Yeah.
offseason. We'll get a
Daniel
vet.
Jones.
Yeah, well, he's already on the
Maybe,
team.
yeah.
I don't think he's taken over, but I do think they'll look at that and say this gives us a true evaluation if he's the guy or not, because we're going to give him a huge red zone threat, a great guy on third down.
Yeah.
Same way, and I think they're walking into this draft saying, we hope Tyler Warren drops, but if he doesn't, Colston Loveland's making his way to Indy.
All right. Colson Loveland, you are an Indianapolis Colt. Yeah, I think that's a like you said, their offense has the makings of a good team. Um, they just got to piece together and see if the whole like taking himself off the field thing still was hilarious to me because he wanted to break, but
Yeah,
he's got a cannon. He just needs to kind of reel it in, and he's still a bit raw. So we'll see if they can get him right. And if not, you got Daniel Jones is it's his time to shine.
Excitement.
he's a perfect guy. He's a perfect guy because he can tank the rest of the season for them, give him another high pick.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Tim, you got the Falcons here, 15.
I'm not gonna
Jalen
lie.
Walker is still on the
I was gonna say
board.
this could not
This is
have.
crazy. This is
This
crazy.
has
If
not
he
worked
drops to
out.
15,
Eagles might start calling people.
This doesn't. This can't have possibly worked out any better. This is the best pick of the draft right now.
Yeah.
After they've invested in the offense so much, the draft. I mean, they've drafted pretty much every skill position in the top 10 the last 4 years.
that's true.
They've got like a consistent need at edge rusher for the last decade. They've tried filling their defense with veterans. It's never worked. It's finally time they use an actual legit first round pick on a defense player who arguably is a top 5, top 10 talent.
hmm
So this one's easy. Best pick of the draft so far. I'm going Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker steal to the Falcons because I mean at one point he was going top 5. So
It'd be interesting to see how the
we'll
board.
see.
He
Yeah,
would be someone that I think some people will get a little itchy about maybe moving up.
yeah. I think after he passes maybe 10 or 12, I think people would start calling, but we'll see. All right. I got the Cardinals here at 16. They would have loved to have added Jalen Walker to that defense that they've been rebuilding this offseason.
What a shame.
But this is another team. I keep getting these teams that have a quarterback who needs more offensive line help. Could we could go Simmons here. Um, Booker even. I'm trying to remember who I want to take here. If I want to do the sexy pick, I want to take the smart pick. I don't know. I think I want to go Josh Simmons again. I think you want to defense is enticing. They could definitely add another safety next to Buddha. Um, but I think you got to be the safe bet's always kind of be kind of offensive line. So take Simmons here for the Cardinals. Nick, you're on the clock with the Bengals, who also would have loved Jalen Walker, but see what they do at 17.
I think that I believe the Bengals have 6 picks in this draft, and I think they're only allowed to take one offensive player and at some point take a guard because this defense is horrible, and we
Mhm.
still don't know what's going on with Hendrickson, which is just makes it even more exciting.
He could be traded the draft
He
weekend,
could be.
honestly.
He could be. So I think they're walking into this pick and just saying, we need a defensive player we can feel good about. And I think they look at Jahdae Barron and say, he might be an outside, he might be a nickel. We don't know, but we think he's going to be a damn good football player. And we
Hmm.
don't care where he plays in our secondary. We'll find a spot for him. I think he's position versatile. I think he could be a CB1 for them. Um, and I was really close to taking Michael Williams, but in the event that they end up giving Trey Hendrickson a big contract, I wouldn't also want to spend a number, mid first round pick on a guy in that same position group. So we'll go secondary. We'll take Jahdae Barron.
All right. That's I think that's 3 Texas players off the board in the first 17 picks. Pretty good stuff. All right, Tim. Seattle Seahawks.
Uh,
I don't know who's
I'm not
playing
gonna
quarterback.
lie.
I forget, but
I think this one has worked out really well too. I like where I'm at here.
okay.
I like I think well, the Seahawks I think have to look on offensive line. They're a team I don't really know if they know what they're doing. They make some moves and they trade DK and let Gino go and it makes you think, they must be rebuilding. Good for them to acknowledge that. Then they go and sign Cooper Kupp for whatever reason. They gave Darnold stupid amount of money and they decided, nope, we really, really want to get a wild card playoff spot so we can lose in the first round. And, so be it. So we're going to stick with that desire to want to lose in the first round of the playoffs. And we're going to get some people to block for Sam Darnold because he's got no wheels. And as we saw in the last 2 games of last season, his whole joyride came crashing to the end when he felt some pressure. So this is kind of a coin flip for me between Banks and what's his face? Zrabel, I think his name
Mhm.
is. But I think Banks has got some potential to move inside. He's got like the buzzword of offensive lineman in the draft. He's got shorter arms. So I'm going Banks. I think he's overall the best. I think he can play on either spot. I think they just need some help up front.
All right. What school did he go to?
He went to Texas.
Another
He should be near the top. Where are you
Oh,
at?
he was already taken, bud.
Oh, was he?
Dolphins.
Oh, this guy.
You said the Seahawks don't know what they're doing. You don't know what you're doing either.
I know this is why I'm a great GM for them. You could have cut me off like the first 10
I
seconds
was
of my
I
rant.
was trying to find him in the in the player pool, and I'm like, I swear he was taken. And I looked over, he's
Oh,
gone.
all right. Give me what's his name? Vrabel, the interior offensive lineman for North Dakota.
Oh, I've seen a lot of him sent to the Eagles.
Yeah.
All right, Gray Zabel, North Dakota
Yeah,
State.
I mean, the Seahawks, to be fair, I don't know what they want to do. I don't think they want to know, so we're just going to fill the biggest hole they have, regardless if it's a reach or not.
All righty. So I got the Bucks here at 19, which I feel like they always kind of draft in this spot. Because they're, that will make that wild card, but then they just kind of fizz out. Um, I think, you have Levante David is probably got maybe a year or two left in him. I don't know. They want to kind of get that next guy up for him, and I think Campbell sitting here from Alabama, really good linebacker. I think this is defense is their pick here. So I mean, they got Mike Evans, and they re-signed. Um, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Who's the other receiver they just re-signed?
Godwin.
Godwin. So and they're pretty okay at tight end. If Loveland slipped here, I could see that, or if Warren somehow slipped. But I think Campbell here is a really good pick for them and good value at 19. So Nick, look at that. You got your Denver Broncos at 20. That was not on purpose. I don't know how that happened, but
Yeah, just a nice little trip down memory lane of my former team.
oh, you've completely abolished them.
No, they're my number two now. I'm not gonna lie.
Your side chick.
The birds have taken over. It's like, it's like your high school girlfriend,
Mm,
You remember it,
mm,
fond memories, but we've moved
mm.
on. We've married bigger, better things.
Okay.
Um, so I think the Broncos were like probably most people's surprise of last season. Is that fair to
Hmm.
say? I don't think many people looked at them walking in as being a 10-win team with Bo Nix.
Agreed.
Very
Um,
fair. Yeah.
but taking like kind of what they did last year and then looking at like the roster has gotten significantly better over the last 2 years. And bringing in Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga, I think were pretty huge steals from the
Funga was,
Niners.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
Either of them stay
Hufanga a
healthy,
lot.
they're
Yeah,
steals.
yeah. I mean, like now their contracts are such that it's baked in the injury risk. But if they pan out, those are really good players to, put around PS2 and Riley Moss, the other starting white corner in the NFL, and Zach Allen and Nick Benito and old Eagles legend Alex Singleton.
Hmm.
Um,
Shout
so
out.
Oh, Alex
they're
Singleton.
they're they're an interesting team in a lot of ways. Somebody was talking a lot about like Emeka Egbuka would be an interesting pick to them
Hmm.
because he's kind of like that perfect professional slot receiver who run every route. Bo Nix does not throw the ball down the field. I don't know if you've ever watched a Broncos game. He might throw 3 balls over 10 yards the entire game. So having a slot receiver like Ibuka Um, would be an enticing pick for them. However, Sean Payton has always been a dual running back, offensive kind of guy. Back with his Mark Ingram and Reggie Bush, and he's always loved to run too. I think Jaleel McLaughlin has a real opportunity to be a good number two. But I think the top three running backs of Genty, Omari, and Hampton and Travion Henderson are kind of like their own little tier. Um, Omari and Hampton is like number 13 on ESPN's big board. And I know they just took the last North Carolina running back flopped and Javonte Williams did not work out. Um, but we grade the player, not the helmet. And I think Omari and Hampton has he's the size, he's a 6 foot running back, he's got the speed, he's got the power. He's a great piece to add to that offense and to give Bo Nix a little bit of help. So I'm taking Omari and Hampton there.
I like it. 2 running backs in the first round. I
He
appreciate it.
he feels like a Denver running back to me. So I think I like that pick. Because I think that's a good sweet spot for him. I do think he's going in the first round, but again, I think 12 was a little too sweet, like Tim said for Dallas. So I think this is a good spot here. Tim, you got the Steelers at 21. Do they reach for a quarterback? What are they feeling?
I mean, Jackson Dart at 21, I think is a pretty good value,
Yeah.
considering quarterbacks always go high. This, I think, is an ideal situation for Pittsburgh. The whole Aaron Rodgers thing is still pretty ridiculous, but then you think back to when he
It's
was with
Aaron
the
Rodgers.
Packers and he announced that he was going to pay for the Jets the next year, even though no trade was there or he wasn't a free agent. So this is still pretty in line with what he normally does.
Hmm.
But to take Jackson Dart, who is clearly the number 3 quarterback in the draft, some people are arguing he's number 2 above Sanders, but to get him at 21, to get really any top tier quarterback in any draft at 21 is pretty impressive. So you get him in whenever Aaron Rodgers finally decides he's going to play for the Steelers. He'll start the year. Dart will sit behind him. Can't imagine Rodgers will stay on very much longer. Gives Pittsburgh a chance to get him out the door, and Dart's taking over the franchise. And hopefully they got their quarterback. So I think this is a great situation for both quarterback and team. I think Pittsburgh's very happy with this. And I still think that Aaron Rodgers won't sign with the team for another 3 months.
Yeah, I think all right, so I'm gonna pin you. You said Jalen Milrow, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I I think the quarterbacks are gonna be so at this point I only think these are the three that are gonna or the two that are three that are gonna go. So what it is Ward, Shador and now Dart. But it's between 20 and 32. I mean, besides the Rams, who else is quarterback needy? So it'll be interesting to see if anyone trades back in, if he drops some more. But I think Pittsburgh or LA, the Rams is where he kind of ends up. But we will see. Maybe Rodgers just retires at that point. All right,
Maybe.
I'm on the clock here with the LA Chargers. They have some needs. I would say they would have liked again Loveland if he would have lasted a little longer. Um, always can use O line. Their defense was really all over the place last year. But one position that they have been really not too great at drafting. But late last year they did get Lai McConkey, which he turned out to be not too bad for them. A nice little you know, um, Wes Welker type. But I just feel like Luther Burden is really a nice pick for the Chargers right here. Just I don't know, it just screams Chargers pick to me. So we're gonna get him off the board. That is our what fourth receiver now. So um, shaping up like a normal draft. Maybe this is where the run starts. The last these late 20, mid 20 teams start taking some receivers, tight ends that pop up. But um, Nick, you are now on the clock with the Packers at 23.
They're an interesting team. They've got 4 wide receiver twos/3s.
Yeah.
No real alpha.
No.
wide receiver, which was really awkward because Josh Jacobs kind of brought that up, and that got real awkward on that team. Um, Jordan Love is, I don't know, he's like a more melanin Justin Herbert in my view. They
Yeah,
they
He's
big
a
arm.
he's a
fair.
typical Packers quarterback. What are you talking about?
He's
They're
he, he's
all they're
like
all built in
he
factories. They all are
he's like
exactly the same.
he's like if Justin Herbert's dad looked like me. And so they it's just interesting because they've got names on defense. Rashawn Gary, who was like a number one recruit in high school. Xavier McKinney was a huge get for them. I can't believe the season he had.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander cannot stay healthy.
No.
Just cannot.
Nah, he's cooked.
Um, Edgerrin
Love him,
Cooper
but
and yeah, Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker were really impressive linebackers. I think they're forming a nice little interesting tandem there.
yeah.
Um, but I think if you're them, um, you need to add a corner. You do. This Jair thing is just not panning out. It's a big contract. You never know when you're gonna get to actually use him. He had that weird thing where he took that captaincy one game and then he got suspended, and he kind of was very wishy-washy on if he was coming back. And um, I think I think they're in a weird spot where if they keep him, he's not going to be around much longer.
Mhm.
And you need to kind of start getting ready to move on there. The problem is there's not really a corner who you could take that high. So I think they pivot and they just take the best defensive player on the board, which is Michael Williams has not been drafted yet, correct?
He is not. Georgia boy.
I think I think they go and take Michael Williams. I mean, he's 6'5", 260,
Mhm.
super strong, big dude. I think kind of playing in that Green Bay cold, having some big body defensive player who can just kind of get after it, set the edge, kind of help that team. But I know they're going to this draft kind of hoping either like Jade Barron or Will Johnson fall because they could really use one of those two. But there's a big drop off. I know Hairston's a name, but I don't think he's tackled enough. And for a guy to play in Green Bay where it's that cold, you need a
Yeah.
corner who's going to come up and make some hits. Um, Trey Amos could be a name. I think he's probably more an early round two kind of guy though. So I'm taking a stud, just adding defensive beasts.
All right. Green Bay gets a he just has to change his colors. He gets the same logo. All right.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Did you never notice that? It's so weird.
I
It's like a high school thing where you have like
mean,
high school teams have like pro and college logos and they just recolor them.
it's a letter. It's not too exotic.
You could funk up a G, but
Yeah.
all right. Vikings at 24. Tim, what are they thinking? Defense? They thinking
I mean,
receiver? What are they thinking? They don't
the
really need
teams,
receivers, but
the team, they don't have many picks. They only have 4 picks. So these have to be impact picks. And I think they do have to, a sense, have to hit on some of the holes they have. I actually like the way the board shook out here. Look at this team whose defense played really well. Brian Flores loves his secondary players. Stephon Gilmore's still a free agent. Harrison Smith is 36. Shout out Harrison Smith, player doesn't get enough love. I was actually shocked to read he was 36, but
He's
you,
very good.
you need to look at life past Harrison Smith at some point. I can't think of a secondary player that has played this long. Um, I think they could use some versatility. So I will give this my best go. Nick Amawari. Amanawari. I think that's pretty on point. Um, he's big, he's physical. I think he can play a little bit in the slot. He gives you some playmaking in the back end.
hmm
He's got a couple interceptions, had a couple pick six. I think him and Brian Flores mix very well together. Fits a huge need. I think he'd play really well with Harrison Smith. So I'm taking Amawari for the Vikings here.
yeah, I definitely think secondary is where they're going to go, but again, depends on how the board goes. But there's some nice safeties at the tail end of the first round.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't be too upset if the Eagles took a safety at 32 if they stood there, but um, 20 pick 25, I got the Houston Texans. Kind of annoying because this is another team that really needs offensive line help, and there's still some good players on the board. Um, and I mean, they did add, I think it was Cam Robinson in the offseason, but who knows how, if he's going to be up to his what he used to be. Um, but all I know is that last year this offense was really rough for the Texans. The year before, they were on fire. They were looking good. Made the playoffs for the first time forever. But last year they struggled a lot. So I think they continue to add to that offensive line with a really athletic tackle from Oregon, if I can find him.
Oh,
Josh,
no way.
yeah, Josh Conley Jr.
Oh,
Texans get a nice piece there on the O line. So I think he's a good fit. I think it's a good value there for him in that 22 to 27 range. So
that
that's
was
where
my
I'm
pick.
going.
That was my pick.
Wow. It sucks to suck. You're on the clock with the Rams at 26.
Oh man, that
We haven't
that
had any
that was
trades yet.
no, just I think it's a
The
stake.
board
I think if
actually
no
is,
no no team got rid of their first round picks yet this year,
Yeah.
yeah,
may stay that
that's
way.
Might be a pretty
the board's
static.
shooking out okay. Like I think
Yeah.
minus, a guy or two. Who was it? The Cowboys was my toughest one, but I think the board's shooking out pretty well for me and all my other picks.
Yeah, I've gotten like top need, like a number one or number two need, I think, for most teams I've drafted for. So
Yeah. Okay. Um, so I think the Rams are like a team that surprised me last year and how good they were. I think a lot of that has to do with how quick
especially on
their
defense.
fronts, yeah, their defensive front seven has just like
They were
really grown
they're
up very,
they're
very
young.
fast. They're young. They're very young.
Yeah.
But they play well together. Jared Verse is legit.
He's a
He's a
beast.
stud.
Yeah.
He's really good. Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk. They got a nice kind of front seven going on there. They don't have they have two CB3s, unfortunately, for their defense. Um, unfortunately, there's not somebody here who I think is a good pickup. And then offensively, you're in a pretty solid spot. I mean,
Yeah.
you got Stafford back. Kyron Williams has proven to be a really good running back. You got Puka. Devontae Adams is now making his little, jaunt across the country back to the West Coast.
Mhm.
Um, Tyler Higbee is a legit tight end. I like him a lot. I think
I
he's
like Higby. Yeah.
I think he's underrated. Um, and I think, if you look at the Rams and you think about the fact that they were a Jalen Carter sack away from knocking off the team that went on and won the Super Bowl.
Mm.
And, I was at that game, and I got to tell you, when he hit that pass to Puka Nacua on that corner over Darius Slay, I was like, this is it. Like this is
Hmm.
it. And the whole
Heartbreaking.
city, you could almost hear the snow hitting the ground. That's how silent it was. And I think they look at their roster and they say, if Tyler Booker is playing right guard for us, we might have made it to the Super Bowl. And I think there's a team that's really strong roster wise. You got an older quarterback who is not very mobile. You got to, taking an Alabama offensive lineman and plugging him in a spot where they're getting, especially that right guard spot, they're going up against a lot of good pass rushing defensive tackles. That's becoming a sneaky spot that's really important to value. And I'm going to be honest with you, it wouldn't shock me if for foreshadowing, if Gray Zabel does drop, the Eagles taking him would not surprise me because while Steen and Kenyon Green are there, if you got a weak link there and you got to block a Dexter Lawrence and some of these dogs at defensive tackles, in this league, it's not a place you want a weak link. So I'm going to say the Rams go with Tyler Booker here and try to shore up that offensive line.
Yeah, I think offensive line, like it's really just shaping up to be a pretty heavy O line draft here. But yeah, I think that was pretty evident. A lot, I think even Sean McVay was saying in an interview like a couple week or like a month or two later that he thought they had that game won, and he was so sure of it. They were, obviously a Jalen Carter sack away from taking care of it. But if they had a better, like you said, better interior lineman, maybe Carter had been delayed a little longer. But
Or if Jalen Carter wasn't a top 5 defense player in the league, maybe. But
yeah, maybe.
we move on.
All right, Tim, you got the Ravens at 27.
So let me go to all. Give me the overall
And we're in
best
all,
available
baby.
here. So this one,
Heavy defense on the board. A
I
lot of
mean, this is what I'm
defense.
thinking. This is the
There's some
Ravens. I
good
think they go
options.
Ravens
defense.
are this screams Baltimore, and I hate it. But
Yeah, you know what, to be honest, the Ravens, what they're going to do, they're going to take the best available defense player. And because there's quite a lot of people here, they always draft value. They're never reaching. I see Stewart up top. They
mhm,
don't really strike me as the team that's going to go out on the limb and take the guy that didn't do anything, but is just a freak athlete. Malachi Stark sounds nice. I'm thinking about him a little bit. But this is the pick that I think they're going to make, and it kind of hurts me because he's the pick that I want the Eagles to make the most.
mhm,
And I think that the Ravens are going to pair up Anabuke with Walter Nolan, and they're going to beef up that
Hmm.
interior.
Yeah.
I think they just saw the Patrick Mahomes life end in front of them when Milton
mhm.
Williams and Jalen Carter were just ruining them. And I think they see that the same way. Tooney's gone. The Chiefs aren't as strong in the mid interior as they were before.
True.
So I'm taking Walter Nolan.
All right. Mississippi D lineman. Mississippi makes some pretty good D linemen. Fletcher Cox, I believe, went there.
Yep.
Well, he went to Mississippi State.
Same
Ole
thing.
Miss.
Oh no,
Yeah,
he went.
yeah.
Yeah, he went. Yeah, he went to Mississippi because that's where him and Slay went.
I meant Mississippi, like the state, not the college. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I was sweating a little bit there because I had a guy in mind for Detroit, and you kept looking at defense. So, um, obviously, defense was big issue for the Lions. I would argue it cost them their playoff game, although they just couldn't keep up with Washington, which was also pretty crazy. Um, but losing Hutchinson for the year was definitely impactful. They tried to replace him, didn't really work. They went through like 45 cornerbacks. So I could see a couple options here for them. And this guy, I think he's not perfect, but he's a very exciting prospect, and I think he can be a guy that does play day one, and someone I kind of want the Eagles to take if he's still there. But I'm gonna go edge out of Tennessee, James Pierce Jr. I feel like this is a nice little fit for him in Detroit, and like I said, I would have preferred to keep him for the Birds, but I think he goes there. They need another edge rusher to help out Hutchinson. So Nick, you're on the clock with Washington Commanders, the runners up in the NFC.
They another surprise team from
Yeah,
last year.
probably the
I
biggest
don't think.
surprise team.
Yeah, I don't think any of us looked. Who knew Jaden Dan was going to have that year? Although I'm not ready to anoint him because I thought C.J. Stroud was going to have some huge second year too. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
do. I just think it's a little different once you get a little tape. I'm just interested
oh, for sure.
once these defensive coordinators, and he's no long. There's a difference between being the hunter and the hunted.
Hmm.
Okay, there, and I'm just interested to see.
They did get
Um,
Debo.
oh wow, that's oof, good for them. I
I'm a resident Debo hater. You know how I feel, but
Yeah, yeah. I think they're an interesting team for this draft spot because um they're kind of in that perfect range to take a safety, either taking Starks or Eamon because Jeremy Chin just left.
Mhm.
They took Quan Martin, 2 years ago, and he looks like he could be a good player for them. And that defensive back, Mikey Sanders, still um, is an absolute dog. He is a really good corner. Um, I was really impressed what Dan Quinn has done with that defense, and I think they're kind of looking at a best available situation here. And Jahad Campbell is still on the board, correct?
Yeah.
Is he?
I think I'm mistaken him.
I mean, I didn't take him.
No, I took him with the Bucks at 19.
Oh, you did
This
take.
guy, he
Oh,
does it twice.
oh, Man. Okay. All
No
right.
one's more
Well,
surprised that Dakota stole a player that we thought was still there than Dakota.
well,
Happens.
yeah, that's somebody who I'm not, I actually would really like the Eagles to take
I
him
agree.
too. I think he'd be a really good um, player for them because he can play on the edge, you can play stack backer, you can kind of put him in while N'Kobe's getting back, in shape, and when N'Kobe does come back, you can kind of put him in sub packages and blitz him off the edge and do a lot of stuff there. Well, then Emmanuel is the only safety who's been drafted, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So
Starks is
Malachi
still there.
Starks
Yeah.
is there. Then Malachi Starks
Oh, I hate that.
is going to
It's
Washington.
good. Good's a good pick.
That's a real bummer. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie. I have
could
to
have had
pretty much
another
had that
Georgia guy on the
circled.
birds.
Well, I
Yeah.
had that circled for the Bills.
Hmm.
They just
Ah,
they're a big safety team. Poyer and what's his face? Poyer and I'm blanking on his name. Had that
Um,
run together,
yeah,
but
oh,
Micah
uh,
yeah.
Hyde.
Micah
Micah
Hyde.
Hyde, yeah,
Micah
that's who it
Hyde.
is. I don't think they've replaced that. So I'm going to go with the other option. I mean, listen, the Buffalo Bills, the only thing they need to think, don't worry about Hole, don't worry about best available player. Who can I draft right now that will help me beat the Kansas City Chiefs? That is the only thing that matters. Doesn't matter long term, short term, nothing matters. Just draft someone that'll help you beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I mean, the Eagles just showed them how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, just ruin Patrick Mahomes' life. Have a whole bunch of pass rushers that get after him. Now, I don't think the Bills are in a great position to be turning down pass rushers in general, considering they signed two free agent defense linemen who both got a 6-game suspension. I don't know how
Mm,
that happens, but
mm.
what are you going to do? I think they're going to go with a risk here, go a little upside. He's there. He's been on the top of the board for a while. Someone's going to take him. I think he goes higher than 30th, but he's here, so I'm going to take Shamar Stewart. Think that the Bills see him. They need pass rush help. They're like, this could be a guy. You got Von Miller. You got Joey Bosa now there a little. Maybe he can learn a bit. So I think that's the pick. But ultimately, they just need to find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. So since we have two picks left and the order is back to me, we're gonna give Nick, since he is the guest, he will be awarded the Eagles pick at 32. Still no trades yet. Surprising. Um, but Tim and I will split. We're gonna do the Chiefs pick together. So we're gonna co-GM this. So
Mm.
I'm thinking while offensive line would be, an Andy Reid pick, I feel like they might go D line here. What are you feeling?
I mean, I see Mike Green right there on top. That one wouldn't surprise me. I think they could use a edge help.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, who else you got? Scroll down a little bit. Donovan's not a bad pick either. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling edge. I
All
think I'm
right.
between Donovan from Boston College and Mike Green.
Yeah, I think Mike Green sounds like a. I mean, the Chiefs had Trent Green, so you can have Mike Green complete
That is
the
the
cycle.
most insane rationale I've ever heard. Trent Green, he's not even a modern day player. I
I
don't
know.
think Patrick Mahomes was born when Trent Green was playing.
Who was I'm trying to think who else was a good. Didn't Vinny Curry? Didn't he go to Marshall? Eagles, former
He
Eagles
did.
again. Yeah.
Again, ridiculous rationale, but yeah, I'm for it. Let's go Mike Green.
All right, I'm cool with that. Mike Green, edge to the Kansas City
Yeah.
Chiefs, and
He's got the same last name as Draymond Green, who has 4 titles,
yeah,
and
yeah.
if
Oh,
the Chiefs
that's
win another one, then they have 4 titles.
great point. Um, Nick, you are the Birds on the clock at 32. Again, we don't have no trades in this mock. I do suspect we'll probably have a couple in the real NFL draft, but you never know. There's been some where there's only been I think one or two trades. So, um, what do you thinking the Birds do here?
I think they're the least likely to of the I'd say least likely to pick in this spot.
I agree.
They either identify somebody, they go up and move and get them in the mid 20s. They're not going to go crazy. They're not dropping to 17 but I could see moving to 25, 26, 27, moving some future picks or something. Um, or if some team is really big on like Jalen Milrow or Tyler Hawk or somebody, and they want to move in and get that fifth year option, kind of like what they did after they won their last Super Bowl and they traded with the Ravens so they could take Lamar, and they moved back and got some extra draft picks and took Goddard. Um, that's a very likely scenario. Walter Nolan is like the most commonly mocked one. Obviously, he went already in our
Yeah.
draft. If they could find a way to get Walter Nolan there, I think Howie's like sprinting that card in.
I agree. He's the
Um,
one I wanted.
he would just be plug and play Milton Williams,
Oh yeah.
and I think that would just be that'd be too nice. Um, James Pierce, would also be if he falls
Yeah, I wanted
because
Pierce.
yeah, because the character concern stuff. If he's there, that could be a really intriguing one. Gray Zabel, if they like really think he's a day one starter for them at right guard, and then maybe Booker is your sort of like not Booker. Tyler Steen is your Swiss Army backup, offensive lineman, and Kenyon Green is a let's see if he can actually play football because he's been a really terrible pro kind of situation.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
Trey Amos, the Ole Miss corner, mentioned a couple times to the Eagles too.
yeah, I would love Jahad Campbell there. I don't think he's going to make it that far. And Ezaraku from Boston College, well, he's a Jersey kid. Just a little too undersized, very productive in
Yeah.
college, but you've already got, Nolan Smith, who's a 6'2" edge, and Jalen Hunt is an undersized edge. So if they're going to do it, you need a guy with size there. Josh Connerly's very commonly mocked, to go there as kind of the developmental Lane Johnson. But I'm going to pivot, and I'm thinking they're going to go and say, we're going to invest in a 20-year-old genetic stud whose
Hmm.
father and uncle were two of the best defensive players for the Miami Dolphins. And that's going to be tight end Mason Taylor. And
Wow.
Wow.
they're going to just say he's a 20-year-old ball of clay. He's a genetic freak. He's 6'5", 251. He was the first 100 reception, 1,000-yard tight end in LSU history. So absolute top-notch program, top-notch player, super athlete. I think his body type, his frame, the Eagles have basically all but moved on from Dallas Goedert. Like it's
Writings on the
happening.
wall. Yeah.
We know it's happening. And I think Mason Taylor is a guy they can bring in, and you know, it may not be immediate, and you may need to, kind of do a little bit of a committee type approach. But I think by year two, he is going to be a legit tight end for them, especially what they've done in the tight end room in Philly the last 20 years has been amazing. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Selleck to Ertz to Goddard, guys who've had legit long runs in this
Come
organization.
on, Chad Lewis.
Yeah, I just think there's
Oh, LJ
it's
Smith.
the luxury of being who they, what their roster is. There's
Mhm.
so many places they can go. Howie's so good on day two in the draft, though. Like he's so good on day
Yeah.
two. I think day one, you want to draft a guy who you can look at and say, can this guy become an absolute stud? And I think Mason Taylor has the ability to be a legit receiving threat. And I hate to say this, I don't know that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are both on this roster in 2 years. I think they might have 2 more years together. They might have to pick it. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Jalen's probably getting a new contract soon. Um, you're going to be bankrolling over 100 million a year into Jalen, and those two receivers. And I don't think they ever anticipated paying a running back 20 million a year too.
Well,
So
got him a chip,
that
so
they were, yeah, well, yeah, but that again, I don't see that coming 3 years from now. So you got to start replenishing. And Jalen likes a tight end on third down. So I'm thinking Mason Taylor here is the future, for them, and he could have a long stretch with his team. He doesn't turn 21 for a little bit.
all right. Mason Taylor is the pick for the Birds. That concludes our first round of picks there. What do you think? Any quick hits? The Eagles pick is interesting, but I don't dislike it by any means. I think he's a definitely an athletic stud, but
I think what we were saying, like, I know we didn't have any trades, but I think the board actually shook out pretty well for most teams. I saw a couple opportunities to trade, but I think I don't know if there are anyone to be really reaching.
Any surprise players that were kind of left off that you remember off the top of your head here?
Um, I mean, I think the Jalen Walker slide is would be pretty surprising to me if he were to just kind of fall
Yeah,
that
all the way to
far.
15.
I mean, that would be a steal. Anybody kind of getting him that late. Um, I would say there's a lot of people who can go in a lot of. I mean, Derek Harmon not going in the first round would be a little bit surprising to me. Um, I think he's a legit DT. Honestly, I think he's probably the second best one behind Mason Graham. Maybe third, possibly behind also Walter Nolan, but definitely top three.
Yeah, I might have him ahead of Stewart. Um, it's I'm trying to I feel like the top 10 is I mean the McMillan thing I think he's a wild card. He could not go till the you know who's picking here? Maybe to Indy at 14 or Arizona at 16. Like six, I think is pretty early for him, but that is a very Raiders pick. Um, Warren again, I could see his earliest, I would say Jacksonville.
Mm.
His latest, I mean, does he last past Miami or Indianapolis?
We'll see. I think it's just really interesting because I there's so many different ways this draft can go, and it's interesting because it's very blue chip light, but it's
Hmm.
very starter heavy, I think. I think there's a lot of guys in this draft, the first 2 days, rounds one, two, and three,
Very plug
who are
and
gonna,
play.
they're gonna walk on the teams and they're gonna play right away.
Yeah.
Um, and I think people are like a little down on the draft because it's not a quarterback heavy, top heavy. And that's always when people get excited to move around the board and do all that stuff. I think the difference between like the 15th guy on your big board and the 20th guy on your big board in this draft is not a huge gap. So
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of people are going to mortgage a lot of their future to move around, feeling like they can still like if you're the Eagles, they've really got to love somebody to move up because there's about five pit positions they can justify taking. So why give up draft capital to move up? Um, they don't have any like clear holes,
Yeah.
and a safety would be nice, but they could just sign Justin Simmons after the draft, and um, you can always find a vet for a lot of these spots. They could say, you know what, Dallas, here's a 2 year extension. We'll add some voidable years and not need a tight end at all. Like they could say, we don't care. Tyler Steen, Kenyon Green, one of you win it, the other one's the backup, and that's what we're rolling with this year. So, I think teams just they have so much flexibility in where they can draft. Um, I think that's what's going to make it a really interesting draft this year.
Yeah, because I think also like we were taking for the most part um by need, but a lot of times the need was also best available. Um so I think this is gonna be a nice draft for like you said, like more of like the people who are a little more into it. Because I agree, I feel like this draft has been the noise around it is not the same as it normally is. It feels a lot quieter this year. Um I don't
Yeah,
know if
which is funny because I find that the noisy drafts are the quarterback and receiver headline drafts.
yeah.
For some reason,
Hmm.
those are the ones people get all up in arms about, and the quarterbacks aren't. You know, there could possibly only be two quarterbacks drafted the whole first round, and receivers.
We only had
You
three
know,
receivers, three tight ends,
yeah,
three receivers, three quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's not very offensive heavy, but I think it's a good year to need some defensive players. Um, there's a lot of really good options there. Um, you know, I think it's going to be exciting. I do think though I still feel strongly the team that wins day two is a lot more than the team that wins day one. I think day two, what you do in that second and third round is, I mean, look what the Eagles have done with second and third round picks,
Oh yeah.
over the years. I mean, Dickerson, Jurgens, Milton Williams, um, like they have gotten some like really like huge
Cooper
contributors.
DeJean.
Nick Cooper, N'Kobe Dean, like guys who played huge roles on this roster. And like, you know, your first round, you should feel kind of good. Like you should leave feeling good about whoever you got in the first round. But building that and I just think it's one of those years where specifically for the Eagles, I think you're just trying to hit some talent. You don't care if they can play this year or if they got, and I think that's why they're fine taking like a Josh Connerly or a Josh Simmons in the first round and being like, you might sit for 2 years and be the backup swing tackle. And but you know what? In year three, when Lane does retire, you're gonna be ready, you're gonna be a stud, and you might be there for a decade. And I think they're okay with that.
Yeah. And also like the Eagles, I mean, in my time of watching them, their second round picks a lot of times ended up being better than their first round picks. I mean,
Yeah.
as of the last, 10, 15 years, I mean, Shady, LaShawn McCoy, he was a second round pick. Deshaun Jackson was a second round pick. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert were both second round picks. Like Cooper DeJean, like you were just naming a bunch of the more recent ones. Hell, even Brian Dawkins was a second round pick. So they've had some really good luck with impact players from the second round and even the third round as well. And obviously they've stockpiled their picks pretty healthily. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, what they do. I'm more interested on. I think I'm definitely more interested for the as an Eagles fan on day two for the
Yeah.
second and third round than I am for Thursday, the first round. But it's still exciting, kind of see how what quarterback sneaks into the first round that wasn't supposed to be there, and how many receivers go off the board and how many in a row, and especially if there's player trades. I mean, AJ Brown was a uh, first day draft trade, first round draft trade. So
Yeah.
you never know. I think Hutchinson could, if he's going to be moved, I think it is the day one. I think he gets moved. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know anyone else like who would be on the trade market right now that would get moved to get up to a first round pick, or
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
I don't know. I do I I have this little sinking feeling in my heart that the Eagles look at Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College and they see 6'8", 316 pounds. If we can just get him in the lab, um, and like one of those like move up, um, he's rated number six offensive tackle on ESPN.
Yeah.
But I think they can get him um, probably like early round two if they move up, maybe into like the 40s. I mean, you get 10 games at left tackle, 24 games at right tackle. So he's got the right tackle experience. He's got swing tackle capability. He could be your backup. He could be your development. And they love those big offensive linemen. And I just think like if you gave him a year or two to work with Stout, with a guy of that size to work with Mailata, and just I think that's something they're just like they always seem to be very interested in. Um, and I could see them kind of trying to figure out a way to make that work.
I mean, Stout University, he churns them out. That's why I think they were also pretty. I think for the Eagles, in my eyes, that unless a corner or safety that we don't know that they are really, really high on, that they're like, hey, we want this guy. I just feel like this is either an edge player because or a D tackle to replace the two of the most important pieces of their defense that helped them win a Super Bowl are gone. Um, I mean, not the most important, but very important. He's Sweat and Milton Williams had phenomenal Super Bowl games. Um, but if not that, I do think O line back to the traditional Eagle way of drafting in the trenches on offense. Because I mean, Lane's getting up there.
Hmm.
I know. I feel like a lot of people look at that and they're like, yeah, but he's still playing at a high level. I'm like, absolutely, he's probably still the best left. I mean, right tackle in the game.
Hmm.
But you need to remember, with a higher age, you're become more injury prone, and those injuries don't heal as fast. So
Right.
that's where I'm concerned. I'm not concerned about his quality of play. I'm concerned about him getting hurt. Luckily, he's been fairly healthy for us. I know he misses a couple games here and there, but
Mhm.
he's a tough player. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think that I mean, you look at the two guys you lost, you draft them in the third and fourth round.
yeah.
So it's not like, hey, in the first round, we got to go
Oh
draft
no,
this
I
guy.
agree.
And, and I think defensive tackle, like, I mean, we only had what, Mason Graham, Walter Nolan. Did Derek Harmon, do we only have two defensive tackles get drafted in the first round? I mean, if Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, TJ Sanders, and Darius Alexander, and Tyleek Williams, and Shamar Turner,
I mean,
you
Graham
know,
went at 5, and then
yeah.
Williams at 23. We had four D linemen.
No, but Michael Williams is really an edge. I don't know why it says D line. He's an
Okay.
edge player. Um, so like, and Shamar Stewart is also an edge. Um, so like, you know, there's five, six guys who you can get in the second, maybe like early third, who could come in and be impact. But I mean, shoot, they got Moro Ojomo in the seventh round 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and he looks like a player.
Though Jomo's going to slot in, probably he might honestly take the Williams spot. So
Yeah, I think he will, and I think Jordan Davis is going to play a lot more snaps this year. Honestly think he's got a little bit of that Brandon Graham in him with the people that had expectations of him he didn't live up to early. I'm not telling you he's going to be a 15-year Eagle,
Mhm.
but he's gotten better year over year. He has been a big piece of when their run defense is good. He's playing well. He got a sack on Jaden Daniels in the NFC Championship. He got a sack on Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He's a great locker room piece. Like they love him. He's a good leader. Um, the fifth year option for him is really not that much money. Now, Howie's not going to want to do it because it's going to guarantee all that money in that year.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to work an extension off of that number though, and I think they'll get a little like 3 year extension somewhere around that option number, but they'll void year it out and kind of keep that Georgia thing together.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Birds really decide what direction they want to go. But again, they've traded up a lot lately. I don't see it this draft. If anything, I think they play the classic. We waited 3 hours to see them pick a player, and then they pull out of the first round and let some
Hmm.
weaker team sneak in to take a last second pick in the first. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's gonna be. We'll see. I do on the quick note on the Brandon Graham thing. I thought it was interesting that I I don't. It might have been Kay Adams he was interviewing with. I can't remember who it was specifically. It might have been her, but he was saying how she was talking about like his turning point in his career, like his favorite thing in his career, and he talked about the strip sack on Brady in the Super
Yep.
Bowl was
So
like
it changed his
his.
life.
Yeah, he said it changed my life. Like Eagles fans started
Hmm.
loving me. But I thought it was so interesting that he called out, not called him out, but he mentioned Earl Thomas. And I think
Hmm.
that's the first time I've ever heard him admit that he like was hurt by the Eagles fans like wanting Earl Thomas over him and then, labeling
Hmm.
him a bust for all these years and then now, besides Jason Kelsey, BG is the
Hmm.
most beloved Eagles player in the city. So it's just I thought that was really interesting that he was like, yeah, everyone wanted Earl Thomas and I wasn't Earl Thomas, and I was like, oh,
Yep.
I'm glad he knew, that's what was happening, but I was surprised he even name dropped. But mm,
Yeah.
I don't think Jordan Davis is on that same trajectory. Um,
No, no. I'm just talking about the like. I think it's going to take him a little while. Like, I think Eagles fans are hard on him because where he was drafted. If he was
is he
drafted in the
is he
second
12?
13,
13.
I think. But I think if they drafted him in the second round, no one's having this conversation with Jordan Davis. People are just all up in arms because they took him at 13. Um, and they traded up those two spots to get him and got rid of a future pick.
Yeah.
But I do think that he is an important piece of this defense, and I hope they find a way to keep him.
Well, you come around on him too. You were pretty critical of him to start the season
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
I mean, he was out of shape. He wasn't
Yeah.
able, he would disappear. He'd get too tall, and but I think just people talk about it all the time. Defensive tackle in the NFL is one of those things that can take a little bit of time to really
Mm,
settle into. Um, and you're not going to go find guys his size, speed, and strength, falling off trees.
yeah.
So if you can make that work, and I'm really big on locker room chemistry. He is a good leader. Like he is a really good leader. He's well respected amongst the Georgia guys. He's kind of the guy who hosts. He's the rah rah guy. He's the guy dancing in the locker room. Um, I think there's a lot of value in that, and I think the Eagles made it very clear moving on from C.J. Gardner Johnson, in Slay, and I think they're looking for a different type of leadership. I think they're going to lean into a little more of the professional cut, guys who just get it, workhorse kind of dudes. The Cooper DeJeans, the Quinyons, the Jalen Hurts, the Saquons. Like I don't need to say much. Just follow me. I'll lead. Um, and I think JD is a good piece of that, and I hope they keep making that work.
Yeah, I think he's very quietly I think he settled in to himself and he kind of was able to, I mean, once he got himself right, that you could not run up the
Hmm.
middle on this team. Um, and I think the whole locker room thing too, especially with the Georgia players,
Hmm.
I would be I feel pretty confident in saying I don't think Nolan Smith would have had as quick progression if he wasn't surrounded by some of his best friends and former teammates from that Georgia Bulldogs defense because at times he looked like he was just going to be just too raw to ever really materialize
Hmm.
but he really him and JD really like after the first few weeks of the season, which that was the team as a whole, really put it together. And I could see Nolan Smith as a vocal guy too. He seemed that way,
Yeah.
especially in the playoffs. He was very vocal. So I could
Hmm.
see him kind of stepping up and being a leader too. But
I agree.
um so just final thoughts. I think as far as quarterbacks, Ewers and Jalen Milrow, if you had to kind of not first round, obviously, but what team pick a team for them? Where do you think they kind of end up? Is it a place where they can actually push for a starting position at a late, second, third, fourth round pick, or are they kind of just backups? I mean, I heard Milrow, maybe someone might turn to a running back. I don't know, but
Um, I I don't know. I mean, I'm not super high on this quarterback class as a group, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah,
Tyler Shock I like way more than Quinn Ewers. I don't think Quinn Ewers is gonna make it through his first contract in the NFL, if we're
he
being
doesn't he
honest.
doesn't seem like he has pro mentality. I don't know.
I mean, I'm honestly I'm thinking Jalen Milrow sort of ends up in like if they don't go quarterback in the first round, um, maybe a day two to the Saints kind of deal.
Hmm.
Um,
I could see Cleveland
I could see
maybe.
that. Yeah, it's possible. I don't think. I mean, I'm going to be frank. I don't think any of these guys are really going to be 10-year quarterbacks. But that's
No.
just my opinion.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, it is odd a draft where the number one pick is not a trio of quarterbacks of who. What was the one with Zach Wilson? I feel like that was the last draft where we were really like did not
Yeah,
know which quarterback was going to go. Um, and obviously we
that
see
was
how that all panned out. But
that was the Stroud. That was the so that was 20. Wait, that was 21, right? It was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance,
yeah, I think so.
Justin Fields, not CJ, Justin Fields, and Mac
Mm,
Jones.
what a wild, yeah.
Yeah, and then Kyle Pitts went 4 ahead of Jamar
Mm,
Chase,
wow, what a
um,
draft.
and Jalen Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn, Surtain, Devontae Smith, Micah
Mm.
Parsons. I mean,
The
this
draft's
honestly,
all over the place.
yeah, but like in a lot of ways, this might be the best. Like I remember this draft being like, if you ended up with almost any player in the top 14, other than like 3, you
Hmm.
got like franchise cornerstones. And
Yeah,
ironically, it's the quarterbacks who sucked. And
yeah,
every other like
that's
position
true.
player, other than Kyle Pitts, like every other position player was a stud.
I feel like the drafts lately have been better. I don't know what it is, but maybe teams are just drafting right and developing players correctly. But
Yeah,
there's not as many players where I'm just like, wow, that was a complete. But I mean, receivers I think are still pretty hit and miss.
yeah,
We've had a lot of late round receivers lately that have not really been panning out.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like you said, the quarterbacks have really only been the only question mark as of the last, couple drafts. There's been teams that have definitely hit, but there's been a lot of bad ones. But they've been giving up quickly. Like, I mean, Will Levis, I don't know if that was always the plan that the Titans were going to be like, yeah, let's make this guy our franchise. But he, the, what, 2 years he's been in the league? 3 years maybe?
Think he's been in for 2 years.
Yeah,
I think this would be year 3.
and they're already turning the page. But it's you got to win in this league. So teams are not patient as they used to be. But
Yep.
like Tim was saying, I think overall the board for our mock, the board came out pretty good. I think I think overall it's lined up well. If this is how the draft actually ended up, most of these teams would be walking away feeling really good, I think, about who they took. So,
Uh,
all right.
that's it.
Well, as always, thanks for hopping on, bringing some knowledge to the pod, and see what the birds do. It'll be fun and it'll be interesting. So,
Yeah. Welcome to Philly, Mason Taylor.
we will see. All right. Peace out.
See. Ya.